How you doing? Better than me. Welcome to the Common Briefing Program, a part of the Common Geeking Program where one of your hosts has had COVID for the whole week and just found out.
Oh,
so
really?
That's awesome. Yeah,
Oh,
man.
wow.
That's rough, yeah.
Colin, irresponsible. You told us this
Yeah.
before you didn't tell us this before we came into our studio
And we're not
started
even
recording together.
completely unventilated, totally unmasked, laughing so much at each other. No, I really, honestly, the biggest problem is I've just been
how unventilated my situation is right now.
no. The biggest
Yeah,
problem.
I could get a computer virus from talking to you.
You could. Biggest problem, honestly, is that I'm tired, which is why I am so eager to get into the geek news, because holy heckin' hell did January 2022 start off with a series of bangs. I've got a lot to talk about, and I think you guys too. Who are you guys?
I'm Jeff, and my thing for today is that I forgot that my girlfriend had class online this week in our tiny one-room apartment. So to accommodate my recording setup, if my audio sounds horrible and echoey, it's because I am currently sitting in a bathtub with the door closed in our bathroom because it is the only room in our house with a door. So
I do
I
listen
guess
to
you could cover yourself up in a blanket.
Yeah, my phone's at least sitting on a shirt, but
that Star Trek podcast that I did some editing for, that I am now professionally associated with. They actually have random bonus episodes that end up being recorded in bathtubs just by like a roll of dice. So like
Very
I've
good.
been like, in my efforts to get closer and closer to them as a production like assistant person, Jeff, you have really like helped me go another step up that ladder.
Yeah, there you
by
go.
doing an impromptu bathtub recording. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Now you can put that shit on your resume as
I'm going
bathtub
to
editor.
Yeah, bathtub editor is just such a strange title. Who else is in the group with us? Who else have I just
Hi.
infected?
I'm Timel, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. My thing for today is I'm deep into Pokemon Legends Arceus, and now my every waking moment is just going, I could be playing Pokemon right now. I'm in class. I could be playing Pokemon right now. I'm doing homework. I could be playing Pokemon right now. I'm doing this podcast, playing Pokemon right now.
Honestly, if you were playing Pokemon for like the entire times that Jeff and I are talking, it's unlikely anybody would notice. I'm not saying you should
while
do that.
We were recording before.
I've definitely done stuff while we were
I remember one time
recording.
during a podcast episode, there was like some weird ass like promotional live stream for the last Pokemon game that released that I was definitely watching during recording an episode for the podcast.
Yeah.
That one where it's like 24
Where, like,
hours, and then you get
it was just 24 hours, and it was basically just something might show up in the woods and reveal a new Pokemon.
That's still puzzling to me, but yeah. No, like Pokemon Legends Arceus, it's not like even a great game. Like, it's not like Breath of the Wild mind-blowing, but it's pretty solid, pretty good, and like
it's the first significant evolution on a very addictive franchise in a long time. So I imagine that regardless of overall game quality, those that are susceptible to that hook are very susceptible.
Like the gameplay loop is very engrossing because like you're constantly like hunting down Pokemon, trying to fill out like these goals on your Pokedex, like catch this many of this Pokemon, sneak up on this Pokemon this many times, feed a Pokemon this kind of food. It's a lot of that, and like a lot of just exploring your environment. And
that sounds a lot like, and I'm not going to talk much about it in the episode, so I feel comfortable just jumping on it. There was the guys who made Guacamelee, Drinkbox Studios. They just dropped Nobody Saves the World, which is like a Zelda-like RPG with some Diablo twists. And it is just like the entire game is just grinding out quests for all the like dozen different characters you can play, but it's so bite-sized and so repeatable and so rewarding that I'm just like, God damn, I've never been so excited to have a checklist of dumb shit to do, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's a checklist of dumb shit that I enjoy.
And it's fun.
That's
it's
eventually
fun.
how
And
Pokemon
also,
Go turned to keeping people like staying involved with it too, is adding tasks and stuff like that.
And also just like the moment you get like a rideable Pokemon, The game turns into Skyrim where you're just trying to mash yourself up mountains.
Just like horse strafe up like 88-degree walls.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that sounds like fun. Well, I think we've all been having some fun playing some video games this month, and I've got a lot of video game news to talk about. So, just in case I do collapse from the horrible plague inside of my body, I'm going to go first, which is customary, but I'm going to do it in case I need to fall asleep. So let's jump right in. So this month, I'm going to start with a little bit of wholesome news, and then I'm going to tell you 4 stories that are exactly the same. So buckle up. There was something very entertaining that happened in Destiny this past month. And it's not like the nitty gritty, like, oh, people are upset about this bit of the ecosystem. I think this is like hilarious, wholesome, and like something everybody can understand to some degree. So I would like to introduce you to the term called Project Saved New Lights. Little context, New Light is the name of somebody that has just joined the game for the first time. If you're a new light in the fiction, that means that you've just been like resurrected or whatever, and you're starting your adventure. And normally the way the game works is you start at the first story mission and go through the tutorial stuff. Seems like a pretty reasonable starting point for a game. Well,
checks out.
There was a little mini sort of expansion pack recently celebrating Bungie, the studio's 30th anniversary, and it has a special event that when you first launch the game, like for me, like I signed in when the expansion came out and it launched me right into the content. Like before I did anything else, I'm like, oh cool, it's throwing me right into the new stuff. Here's the problem. For those new lights firing up the game for the very, very first time, if they bought this expansion, before it even gave them a tutorial, it put them in this new game mode called Dares.
Oh no.
Where they were all underleveled significantly to the point where they can do almost no damage to enemies. B, do not have a heavy weapon, which is the highest damage dealing type of weapon you can have. And C, are matched against enemies that need very specific mods to fight against. And Bungie
also,
was like,
and have not been taught how to play the game?
Have not been taught how to play the game at all. So if you were just like, my friends told me to get into Destiny, and we plunked down $30 to get this expansion, jump in, bam, what the fuck is happening? So Project Save New Lights was born, where essentially Bungie was like, hey guys, we're not going to be able to fix this for like another 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
So please go rescue these people. And the community fucking rallied around this, and people would intentionally lower their power level to make sure they would get matched with these new players and rescue them to get them through the mission, get them rewards so that they can play the game normally. And
God,
just starting yesterday, I got my reward. Everyone who jumped in and did that, they get a little emblem saying like, you saved the new light.
Sounds like DBZ where it's like, we gotta lower our power levels.
Yeah. it was just like, when the issue was first like burbling up, like, guys, I think the game's busted, because the new lights aren't the people in the community that are voicing things on Twitter. They're just like, let me try this game. Oh, this sucks. Bye. So it took a while for people to notice, and it suddenly became the community focus. Everybody that like is big in the Destiny community was talking about it. It was just a regular thing. Let's get on. Let's go save some people from Dares. And you meet all these new players and have a great time. It's just heartwarming and wholesome to see like something that can be solved by the community, and it's just like nobody was like, Bungie fucking sucks. Everyone was like, let's go play this game. It was meta and funny and loving and cool. I loved it.
I'm never surprised when, there's some story about how like a lot of members of an online community or like an online game community are just like really, really shitty. But it's always nice I'm always pleasantly surprised when it goes the other way, and it's just like, it turns out a group of people who don't know each other online decided to be really altruistic. Like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah. It was like a universally positive response.
I'm so used to like gamers just being like elitist gatekeeper nonsense.
I think
that like
Bungie has been doing a lot with Destiny to try to get rid of those like elitist barriers, making it harder to catch up. They're trying to make it as welcoming as possible, and this fucking slipped through the cracks, and everyone was like, no, Bungie, we're gonna take your lead. We fucking got this. So that was just, I love it. Operation Save New Lights, such a I don't know, such a unique confluence of very positive things that I haven't seen in a while. Now for a confluence of very similar things, positive or negative, I guess we'll find out. So, beginning of January, Take-Two Interactive, big games publisher, they published Grand Theft Auto. They bought Zynga, the mobile gaming giant, for like, what, $12 billion? And then Microsoft said, hold my beer, I'm going to buy Activision Blizzard King for almost $70 billion.
That was this month, Jesus.
And then Sony was like, well, I don't have as much money as Microsoft, but I'm going to buy Bungie for $3.6 billion. And then the New York Times was like, we're going to buy Wordle for $1 million.
I just started playing Wordle yesterday. It's kind of fun.
It's lovely. It's lovely. It's just a nice little way. 2 days in a row now, I've gotten it in 2 tries, and I feel like a fucking genius. COVID has superpowered me.
I got it in 4 tries the first time and 5 tries today.
It's a lovely little time. So this is a lot of big acquisitions just happened in this past month. You could chalk it up to, late stage capitalism, everything consolidating, everything will be vertically integrated, everything's going to be owned by the same 3 people.
All of those things happened this month? God, the Microsoft,
the Microsoft
Activision one feels like it was like 3 months ago.
Nope, that was like 2 weeks ago at most.
Damn.
That was January.
It's been a few 2 weeks for me.
I'm not a fan of a lot of I'm not a fan of this because it's just a sign of like the industry getting smaller and like just a few big guys controlling everything.
I have some comments on each of these that I think makes. Obviously, the big picture is spooky in that regard because it's just anytime that stuff gets consolidated like this, there are a lot of worries about what the anti-competitive nature is going to be in terms of its impact on consumers. It's almost universally bad to some degree. You usually see studio closures. You see a lot of stuff. But of these 4 acquisitions, the one I know the least about was the first, which was the Take-Two Interactive one, which was the largest games acquisition, I think, in history for like a week. Before Microsoft blew it out of the fucking water. But the comments, the things to think about here, Take-Two Interactive, we haven't seen a lot of their biggest stuff drop lately. They're known not just for Grand Theft Auto, but like they also published Borderlands and BioShock, some franchises that either have been dormant or not as active. Like Borderlands 3 came out, there hasn't been a lot going on with Borderlands aside from the Tiny Tina thing that's coming out. So it seems like for them, it's like, let's get a more consistent revenue stream with Zynga because they have so many, Facebook and mobile games. That's just a consistent revenue stream. That kind of makes sense. Then we look at Microsoft. Microsoft has been on a buying spree for years. And if you look at how much this cost, Microsoft had somewhere like from like $150 to $170 billion just sitting there. And they spent half of it. This Activision acquisition that is about to undergo review by the FTC, it's cash. This is not like stock options. This is not like spinning stuff off.
Jeez.
They're dropping almost $70 billion just straight up paying for the company, and then it's theirs. The merger likely wouldn't be complete
that one interests me the most
mid-2023.
I'm really curious to see how that affects all of the other nonsense that's been going on with Activision for the past several months.
I think it's explicitly because of that.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'm just curious about how it's going to change it, or if it's going to.
What we've heard about it so far is they're sort of the 2 sides of the conversation. One of the sides with the Microsoft thing is Game Pass, console exclusivity, all that sort of thing. Because when they bought Bethesda, we know that some Bethesda games, they're all on Game Pass. Some of them are going to not be on PlayStation. So people like with Activision, I mean, we've been talking about Activision a lot lately. We're talking all the Blizzard games, all the Call of Duty games, a bunch of huge shit that they're trying to use to bolster the Game Pass library. They're trying to make the deal like, impossible to refuse. They are trying to make Game Pass the thing that you need to play games. The other side of things is Microsoft has probably been looking at this for a while, and all the shit over the last 6+ months that have been plaguing Activision lowers that price a little bit. Makes it a little easier for people to say, like, okay, the people at the top, like Bobby Kotick, who everybody wants to step down. What's happening is during the transition, he's remaining as head of Activision Blizzard king. And afterwards, if he were to remain CEO, he would report directly to Phil Spencer. But there is no indication that he is going to remain once the merger is complete. Microsoft obviously has no control over Activision until the merger is complete. So I think that people are looking at this as like Microsoft taking advantage of Activision's horrible situation to beef up their library of first-party shit and Game Pass.
Yeah.
It's just a smart move across the board, but the scope of it is kind of terrifying because now World of Warcraft, Halo, and Call of Duty are all the same group. What? That's just weird.
That's rough.
Like, on a superficial level, it's weird, and when you look deeper, it's concerning.
Like, and, you know, the irony of, like, one guy having Minecraft, Warcraft, StarCraft.
Yeah,
and
no,
especially,
pretty much.
like, I mean, for unrelated reasons, like, mostly companies have been doing this for, like, you know, to kind of hide controversies and stuff like that. But, like, the kind of continuing trend of more and more companies, like, taking the company's name off of their games. To someone who's, like, not watching so closely, you might not even, like, realize that all of your games are owned by the same company in the same sort of way that, like, you know, I don't totally realize unless I, like, really look into it, like, how many of the products I buy at the supermarket are owned by, like, Pepsi or Coca-Cola, you know?
Yeah.
You just know the
exactly
ones that are the obvious ones.
And on the one hand, Microsoft has definitely been improving their street cred when it comes to them running studios. They had some pretty high-profile closures for a long time, specifically with their acquisitions. But since, like, 2016, there's been a lot of goodwill. And so people are hoping that, like, maybe Microsoft can step in and fix this, but it's still, you know, the second biggest company in the world making one of the biggest acquisitions in history.
So what's Microsoft's record with, like, sexual harassment, toxic work environment?
There haven't been any particular scandals. As far as toxic workplace stuff, I mean, the biggest issues that you've seen, I think, can be found around their closures, but I don't think that was necessarily toxic workplace. I think, honestly, Halo Infinite's one of the best examples because it went through like a 6-year development hell, because that's twice as long as like any other Halo game before it. And it just a lot of like mismanagement and stuff. Nothing to the level of like abuse, even that we heard from like Bungie, which was relatively tame compared to the shit we've heard from Activision. So as far as we can tell, Microsoft runs a tight ship. Then again, they're a fucking juggernaut.
Yeah.
We don't know how deep it goes. And to Jeff's point about, like, you don't know how all these things are connected. I mean, think about what happened with Activision. A couple of guys get in trouble and suddenly a beloved library of games is tainted. How much bigger is that going to get if Microsoft blows it?
Yeah, really.
And it should also be noted that, like, Activision Blizzard's probably going to have a lot of independent leeway. The same way that, like, Disney doesn't look over Marvel Comics' Activision's pride.
Yeah, I think it's more of an like primarily just a financial game top to bottom. But that actually leads me to the third acquisition, which is Sony buying Bungie. This came out of left field, and it came right after the Microsoft thing where people were like, is this retaliation? Like, is Sony butthurt? So they bought the studio that made Microsoft a big name in gaming. Because for those who don't know, Bungie also developed Halo, which is the only reason the Xbox succeeded.
Yeah, really.
So, and they were owned by Microsoft until 2008. They split off and went independent. They had a 10-year publishing deal with Activision. This actually is pretty important to the point I want to make about this and why it's such a unique deal. When Bungie split from Microsoft, they did not retain the rights to Halo. So they made 2 more Halo games after the split, ODST and Reach. But then Microsoft spun up their own studio, 343, and they make Halo now, and they lost it. So in 2010, Bungie signed a publishing deal with Activision. It expired in 2019, and that publishing deal was for Destiny, and it had a very unique clause, which is we will retain the rights to Destiny when this agreement is over. So Bungie has been independently publishing Destiny since 2019. So Destiny 2, a game that just added 20 million players to its roster, is technically an indie game, which is hilarious to me. So Sony buying them is kind of like a big surprise. Like, you guys don't like being acquired. You guys want to be an independent studio, but you're being bought by Sony. And the alarms went off right off the bat because part of the publishing agreement under Activision gave PlayStation timed exclusives. When you're talking about like an MMO style game like Destiny, that feels really bad when like 60% of the players can't play stuff that's supposed to be part of this single coherent world because only PlayStation has access to it. And immediately everybody was like, Sony, don't fuck us again. Sony, don't fucking split the gamer base again. Because Sony has been using its muscle for years to...
and Sony is infamous for this. Street Fighter or Cross Tekken, it was notorious because it had these fighting game characters that were exclusive to the PlayStation. And nobody else could play as those characters. And it was what the fuck? So I'm clearly just getting an inferior thing if I anything other than the PlayStation version.
And Sony has tried to use their success in the console hardware space because they outsell the Xbox by quite a bit since the last generation of consoles began. So they've consistently used that muscle to try to stop crossplay from happening. And if it was just their platform, that's one thing. What's frustrated me about Sony is that they have intentionally tried to stymie what other platforms can do using their capital and, political influence within the gaming market. This deal, Bungie came out and said, we are still self-publishing Destiny. It's still going to be the same everywhere. This game is not going to be PlayStation exclusive. There will be no PlayStation exclusive content. Our future games will not be PlayStation exclusive. And in fact, Sony is going to help us expand to more platforms than we currently reach.
Which, all jokes aside, is good. Bungie...
It's very good.
Getting a stable financial source.
And that's essentially what it looks like. It seems almost more hands-off than what you were suggesting the Microsoft deal may be. But there's another side to this as well, which is Sony has the ability to make movies and TV shows. And a lot of people are speculating that that is part of the deal here. Bungie wants complete control over Destiny, and they have it, which when someone buys you for $3.6 billion and they don't get any control over what you're making, that's kind of insane on its own. That, the Activision deal 10 years ago was weird. This is how the fuck did they pull that off? Do they have that much leverage to be bought for that much and retain that much control? But we think, I mean, the perception just seems to be this is just so that Bungie can stay funded, expand their studio, and get access to movie and TV, studios and things like that.
I imagine
Sony will also learn from Bungie how to create and run live service games because Bungie has learned very well how to do that.
In it, yeah. And I imagine what Sony's getting out of it is while they'll leave Bungie alone to do their video game stuff, Bungie leaves Sony alone to do their TV and movie stuff. This is my line. You stay on your video game stuff. I stay on my multimedia empire stuff.
And the last one is Wordle, which, I mean, it was just created by one dude trying to make a game.
On the Sony, Bungie,
on the Bungie,
Microsoft,
on the Bungo.
Yeah, this is the smallest thing, but I find it hilarious that Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, who were once the faces of the PlayStation, now belong to Microsoft, while Bungie
belongs
Microsoft,
to Sony.
Microsoft superstar beloved superstar belongs to Sony, and it's it's topsy-turvy world. And Nintendo's
it's wild.
Just looking over. Nintendo's just chilling in the back, going, "You're something."
Pretty much. And Wordle is just I hope that New York Times doesn't paywall it. The language around the acquisition seems very much like they're going to eventually, just not right away. Because Wordle's just a delightful little game, but it was one dude who accidentally created a huge hit, and he was like, I can't run this game. This was not supposed to happen. So he sold it. Got a cool million. He's good to go. Totally makes sense on all sides. But please don't fuck up Wordle. I like it.
It's fun, but if they paywall it, it is not worth playing.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, no. If they charge for any of it, I'm done. There's no point.
Yeah.
It's just a pure little experience.
Yeah, I mean, New York Times, I don't like as an organization because they paywall the truth, as it were. You get a lot of disinformation that's free, and New York Times is you got to pay to have the correct, and also New York Times just really likes giving platforms to Nazis and shit, and it's just
Yep. So, was it Tom Cotton? Was he the one that did the big op-ed that had everyone internally being what the fuck is up with this? Something like that. But anyway, 4 major acquisitions. The common thread is these companies are just trying to create more stable revenue streams, but created a fucking hell of a month.
Yeah. I mean, they're really on that. I mean, everyone's on that metaverse shit right now, where they're trying to turn their, or like a giant stockpile of IPs into just
Ready Player One.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's all I've got. Ran a couple minutes longer than I wanted to, but yeah, those are my stories. But if you're gonna think of anything after this, just remember, Project Save New Lights was just such a heartwarming thing. Let's move on. Who's next?
I am next. Right off the bat, as I pull it up on my email, just not big news, but just because it's been a trend to kind of follow the updates around the Haslab Victory Saber crowdfunded project. We got another update where we got to see the packaging art. That's it. It's done by Guido Guidi, who's a longtime Transformers comic book artist, and it looks pretty cool. But not big news there. Just a quick update. Next, for a couple neat announcements that we got this month. Guillermo del Toro is doing a stop motion animated Pinocchio series for Netflix that we got the teaser for this month, and it's going to be airing in December this year, and that looks pretty cool, but not a lot about that yet. And
I heard the voice. Yeah, I heard the voice they had for Pinocchio, and it is not what I expected at all.
Wait, who's voicing Pinocchio in this? Because I have not heard that.
It's not who's voicing; it's just the voice they went with. It's like I don't know how to describe it. Like
I saw the teaser that had Ewan McGregor as the cricket. Was there another thing releasing that showed Pinocchio's voice?
Ewan McGregor as cricket. David. I don't see anything about. Gregory Mann as Pinocchio. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how do you describe that voice? It's just like a very, very disinterested gay man. It's it's only way I could. like
I'm into it.
Yeah. No, I just got a good laugh out of that.
But
really, if he ain't sharpening his arm, ready to kill zombies in a grimdark world, is it really worth bringing Pinocchio back?
Yeah.
I'm referencing Liza
P. And then in other Netflix announcements, we also got, I don't know if there was any news about this beforehand, but this was the first I saw about it, and it seems like a really quick turnaround from announcement to release, but they're making a Cuphead animated show, which, if you don't know, Cuphead is
it was announced quite a while ago.
Indie game that is like that's inspired by like 1930s cartoons and shit like that. And
especially
it's really
like
cute.
Fleischer cartoons, like Popeye, Betty Boop.
Exactly. And
I played it when it came out. In case you don't know, it is notorious for being incredibly difficult.
It's like old school shooter,
and it's got like a big emphasis on like mechanic heavy boss fights, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's really fun that they're making it into an animated series because it is kind of playing off of that cartoon style. And I hadn't seen anything about it, but the trailer at least dropped on the 18th of January, and it's releasing on the 18th of February, which is in like
That's close,
2 weeks exactly from the air date of this episode. And that's pretty cool.
It's much like the original Cuphead, which was announced, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this game looks amazing!" And it was like radio silence for years, and then we're like, "All right, we're almost done. We promise." That's kind of what it was with the TV show too. It was announced some time ago, but I hadn't heard anything of it. I will say about the trailer though, it's a little uncanny, but like they are clearly the Cuphead game does an excellent job of mimicking the style of cartoons you were mentioning. And given that you're dealing in a game engine where things are repeated and moved, as sprites around a place, it's maybe easier. I don't want to say easier, but potentially less resource intensive to design a handful of old looking animations accurately and then just have the engine play them out versus this show, which is clearly animated in the style of those older cartoons, in like their shapes and their motion, but it is very visibly modern day animation techniques
Well,
because it's a
yeah.
totally different pipeline, and it's an
well,
uncanny mix of 100 years ago and now.
I mean, they've done that before, though.
with like the video game, it's like there's this layer of distance where it's like, yeah, this is old school looking
That's true.
cartooning, but it's also a video, like, a video game looking video game, and it's 2D, everything at a single angle, and the audience is primed to like kind of get, hey, this isn't going to be a perfect recreation by the nature of it being a video game. Here we have
I guess
like
I think what I'm saying is I think the video game is a closer recreation of the aesthetic in question than the show seems to be, and that's not a bad thing. That's just my observation.
no, I'm
Yeah,
not,
I don't know. I
I'm
think that
saying
the
like
animation looks. It definitely looks really crisp to me, and like,
Yeah.
it feels like you're right. Like they're definitely using modern like animation techniques, and
because
everything
of
like
course they
runs a
are.
little smoother. But
Yeah.
I love shit like that where it's clear that like the animators are just like having a really fun time homaging things that they
Yeah.
learned about in film school, which is really how it reads to me.
I agree. It gave me
And,
good
like,
vibes.
the
It
little-
was just a weird thing off the rip.
and the
Yeah, I
little
feel that.
details they put in to the or that you can see in the trailers are really good. Like for example, like characters that are like moving and in motion are a different shade than the background, because back in the day when things were animated on cells,
Yeah.
there would
got,
be
like,
noticeable
faded out because of the like transparencies of the thing, right?
exactly. So
Yeah.
so they actually like went through the trouble of recreating that there, and it's like yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a perfect recreation. It looks like an adaptation in a weird way because it is just like using modern tools to try to do something old, and I always think that's fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of
So there's
you're
that.
not done
I've
yet.
got
Gotcha.
two more things to talk about. Another quick one is so Netflix is another Netflix thing is making a live action Masters of the Universe movie. So He-Man, if you don't know, and that's been announced for a while. I thought that some other company had it for a while, and then maybe Netflix took it over. I might be misremembering that, but the story this time is that they've cast Kyle Allen to play He-Man. All the things I've not seen anything. I see all the mentions just say he was in West Side Story, and I'm assuming that's the new one. But
I would hope so.
yeah, and I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything talk about if he's playing He-Man or if he's playing Adam, because they're not the same, so I'm not really sure which. I would guess just by the look of him that he'd probably be the one playing Adam, and that they might, like fucking CGI bulk him out in some way to make him be He-Man. I don't know.
You'd have to like go with CGI to make He-Man, simply because with like that really bad live action He-Man movie.
Right, it would either be that or like do the the whole Chris Evans Captain America thing and CGI him down to be Adam, depending on which one of them actually has more screen time.
They once had Dolph Lundgren play He-Man,
Yeah.
and everyone was like, he's not jacked enough to play He-Man, and like, my God,
Dolph Lundgren?
Dolph Lundgren played He-Man, and it's like he wasn't jacked enough to play He-Man.
In that
Have you seen
fucking
Dolph
episode of In the Toys That Made Us, where they're like interviewing one of the guys who created He-Man, the one who's like really toxically masculine and like everything that he prioritizes, he's talking about like, and they cast this wimpy guy to play him. I'm like, Dolph Lundgren?
My dude, Dolph
that's
Lundgren
insane.
once like punched Sylvester Stallone in the chest for like a movie, and like the doctor thought he got hit by a car. That's how strong Dolph Lundgren is.
It's insane. Have y'all watched Peacemaker yet? The sequels to Suicide Squad? It's
You mean
it's
the
really
Suicide
good.
Squad?
The Suicide Squad. Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'd hate to get confused. It was one, it's surprisingly good, but two, I love that it opens up with somebody saying, "You're too bulky to be a superhero. They're never that jacked." And I'm just, and this is just making me think like sub John Cena / The Rock. What do people think humans actually look like? I mean, if you're gonna cast someone as He-Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. Just quick question. Also, Netflix. They've also done both of the recent animated He-Man series, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're just on a He-Man blitz.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then my last big story, questionably geek news, but certainly entertainment news. On, I believe it was on the 24th of January, Neil Young announced that he was basically threatening Spotify, saying that he would have all of his music pulled off of the platform if they continued to host Joe Rogan in protest of, all of Joe Rogan's like incessant vaccine hesitancy and misinformation that he puts out on his podcast, which was like a big deal to like have a big entertainer like, basically like removing their own revenue in protest of this. And
I'm not gonna lie, I was like pretty like Neil Young is not a big enough name with younger people, and Spotify is, and Joe Rogan is, and I'm like, I don't know how much weight this is gonna carry. I think you can probably explain.
It was going to carry weight, I think, is if other artists decide to join him. And as of right now, the only other artist who's joined him is Joni Mitchell. As of the 29th.
Today, Crosby, Stills, and Nash just tweeted
really?
today.
I didn't hear
that they're pulling it as well.
Good. Yeah, I would, because it's one thing to be the one person who does this, but I feel like it's easier the more and more people jump onto it, because something that I heard talked about is like fans might not have even have like really considered it as like an option. So then when they see, whether they're big names now or used to be, whether they see creators like doing this, then I feel like it could create this energy where if other artists that put forward kind of progressive messaging and stuff like that don't do this, then their fan bases might be like, yo, you should, are you gonna join in, or
the pressure will grow. The thing is, I don't know how much you're gonna see younger artists do it, just because I think very few artists of our generation and the one before us are in that much control of their music and how their music is handled. I imagine someone like a Taylor Swift might be able to pull it off, but I don't, just because she typically exercises that kind of control. But I have no idea what the contracts are on the back end. It's insane. And fucking
the music industry is fucked.
It is, generally speaking. But some good news has already started coming out of this, which is at the very least, Spotify has committed to implementing misinformation label systems regarding COVID-19, which does not fully address the issue.
No.
And then, folks like The Rock come out in defense of Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's rough.
During this, which is like, hey, dude, do you want that Moana money? Because if you don't stop, you might not keep getting that Moana money. We'll see what happens.
It's just shitty in general, because, I feel like the whole thing with Joe Rogan is that, he says a lot of things that are very misleading, but he talks about it, so casually and somewhat charismatically that he's not, one of these, far-right figures that is being, in your face, obnoxious, throwing shit at you. It sounds like he's just having a conversation, but then he said, the things that he says are so misleading and debunked, time and time again, that it makes it sound like he's just saying, well, I'm just trying to show both sides, when one of the sides he's showing is just, definitively proven false. And
I think it's a little dangerous to even write it off as that naive, because he has actively promoted, not getting vaccinated and fucking ivermectin or whatever.
I'm not saying he's naively doing it. I'm saying he comes off as doing it, which makes it more dangerous.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. No, I think you're right. Misinformation labels can help. They are an effective misinformation counter agent, but maybe not to the scope of deplatforming, which is a touchy subject for some people. And Joe Rogan is maybe Spotify's biggest financial haul.
Yeah, especially since they just spent a buttload of money to get him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the Microsoft Activision sort of deal, damaged goods is still worth money. So we'll fucking see.
It's just interesting where it goes, because really I don't foresee Spotify doing it for any sort of altruist or any sort of progressive reasons. But if enough
money.
people like leave the platform at a certain point, like, not that it'll come to this or is even likely to, but at a certain point, it'll be financially better for them to just like cut their losses with Joe Rogan, which I think is what the hope is, even if that's as unlikely as that may be.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but I also didn't think that both Activision and Bungie would be acquired this month.
No, I don't either. But it's nice to hope about something, right?
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all I had to talk about this month. A couple of cute announcements, a few updates, and then that story, which hopefully we'll hear more about in the future. But until then, that's my bit.
All right, Chowder, passing the ball to you. Chowder, what do you have?
So first thing I want to talk about is a fan-made Bloodborne demake. So
can you define demake for those that may not know?
Like me.
Yes.
Well, demake isn't like anything official. It's just like, you know how there are like remakes of video games where it's like, oh yeah, the graphics are better and it has like bells and whistles that are more modern. In this case, a fan by the name of Lilith Walther has spent like 18 months making a version of Bloodborne. Bloodborne is a game that came out for the PlayStation 4. It is a Soulsborne style game made by FromSoft, and this fan has basically spent 18 months making a version of Bloodborne that looks, plays, sounds like it was made for the PlayStation 1, and that
demake is making a game on an older platform.
It is intentionally making a game
like retro
with older constraints. Yeah, to make it seem like it came out in an older generation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a fucking weird reference that won't mean anything to either of you, but there was a third party toy company that did that for like Transformers one time, where they like made the retro versions, original characters, but made them in the style of like the original like
that's fun
toys. That reminds me of that.
Yeah,
like paying homage basically to the like old jankiness that is, you know, appealing for nostalgic reasons.
Yeah, it's that kind of thought process, like, right? And I've been following this project for a while, and like, you know, it is really impressive what was accomplished, because like this, like they nail it down to like the finest details, right? Like it's not just like low poly models that are evocative of the PlayStation 1. This is a game that could play on the PlayStation. Like it takes into account the strange idiosyncrasies of the original PlayStation, and like, you know, like things like fonts, the fact that there's no joystick because the original PlayStation didn't have a joystick.
It's easy to forget that, like, you know, 20 years ago, consoles were like really scrapped together unique pieces of hardware, because now they're all built out of the same sort of like stock chips or custom versions of off-the-shelf stuff. Back then, consoles were all significantly different for important reasons, and to build really tightly within those constraints is a really interesting challenge.
Yeah, and like things like texture and sound quality, and the fact that there's a fog in order to like save on like processing power, because, you know, the PlayStation can't render too much stuff all at once, and like it is a faithful recreation of like blood from translating a Bloodborne from its level design, gameplay mechanics to the game feel, everything. It very much feels like Bloodborne on PS1, and
have you played the demake?
I have played the demake, yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
Would you say that it's like, not for what it is, but like if this was what Bloodborne was, how do you enjoy it as a video game today, regardless of like this is so interesting, but like, is it still fun to play in the way that Bloodborne is?
It's still fun to play, but. So like so old games like the original Resident Evil, they are good, but they have like a sort of learning curve. Yeah, like a learning curve where it's like you kinda gotta get used to it and accept some of the jank of games to enjoy them, but they are enjoyable. The original Silent Hill is a terrifying game if you're willing to put up with tank controls, and it's that same kind of vibe where it's like if you're willing to put up with old school jank, which I very much am because I like old games. It is a really enjoyable game, and like I imagine like in an alternate universe where this was like what came out on the PlayStation, it would be considered like one of the greatest games of all time, because
that's the benefit of applying an additional 25 years of improvement in game design philosophy to an old system and set of tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, kind of like Cuphead. Interesting parallel.
Yeah, kind of like Cuphead. Yeah, exactly. And the game only goes up to a certain part, or the demake only goes up to a certain part in the original game. Like the demake, I think, ends after the Father Gascoigne.
Yeah, we all know what that is, right, Jeff?
Oh yeah, that classic
love it.
Time that I know about.
Love Papa Gassy.
You don't even need to know that. It's just there's a certain point there's a certain cutoff point that the game
I got you.
that the demake stops. There's a certain boss fight that the demake stops because it'd be way too much work for one person. Oh, by the way, this is made by one person.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, no.
But this has nothing to do with Bloodborne, but I just noticed that because I'm in an echoey bathtub and am getting pretty hungry, I think my stomach gurgles just like visibly showed up on the levels on my recording.
That's hilarious. But
fun.
It reaches up to a certain boss fight and ends there because it'd be way too much for one person to try to recreate a whole ass RPG or action RPG. But what was accomplished here is I've said it again, really fucking amazing, and I just think it's the coolest book. The next thing I want,
really cool. It's just like a really neat way to like make a fucking like personal love letter to both the game itself and also like the platform that you're kind of emulating. Like that's just a really cool idea.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing I want to talk about is something that was announced actually a few hours ago, which is Yacht Club, a new game that they announced on Kickstarter, Mina the Hollower. And for those of you who don't know, Yacht Club game are the people who made Hollow Knight. Or not Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight. I was about to say, if they're doing anything other than making Silk Song, I'm going to rage.
Right? Yeah, no. They're the guys who made Shovel Knight, a really popular 2D platformer. So Shovel Knight was like a love letter to old NES games, where Shovel Knight wanted to recreate the feel of like old 2D platforming games like Mega Man, the DuckTales video game, and Ninja Gaiden and stuff. Mina the Hollower is looking to do the same for what Mina the Hollower is kind of like a cross between old classic Castlevania, not the Metroidvania stuff, but like the classic obstacle based Castlevania games and like Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. It is a top-down adventure game done in the style of like a Game Boy or Game Boy Color, and it should be noted it's like in the style of those games because like it's using like tech and technology that the Game Boy wouldn't have been able to, but the idea is they're trying to recreate the feel the way you remember it rather than the way it actually was. Different kind of philosophy from, say, the Bloodborne remake, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna be like accurate as shit, but yeah, Mina the Hollower looks pretty darn cool. It's got like this adorable little mouse protagonist, and like the gameplay, like the action does feel like it takes a lot of emphasis on like timing and like knowing the timing of your weapons and stuff, which is a very Castlevania kind of thing. But like the overall game is a very much exploration heavy puzzle solving kind of thing that's in line with like Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages, and like it is a really good looking game in that it feels like a game, or it does in fact feel like a Game Boy game, just nicer, as it were. You know, when this was announced, people were really interested because like this is the first non-Shovel Knight thing Yacht Club game has been making, and you know, it's only been a few hours, but it's already almost at $500,000, way past their goal of $311,000.
Nice.
Right, as of this recording, it is at $485,000. And we still got like 29 days to go, you know, so like,
Do they have any good stretch goals?
There are stretch goals, yeah. But yeah, no, I could easily see this going past like $1 million, you know? Right now, the current stretch goals are at 511,000. There's sound tests, 661,000. There's cheat codes. The others are a mystery right now, as of recording this.
Sound test. I haven't heard that term in a video game in like 20 years.
Yeah, no. Again, this is their like Yacht Club is very good at like creating the feel of like old school games while not necessarily adopting their flaws. Like the great thing about Shovel Knight is, you know, while it is a love letter to old platformers, it's also its own thing, right? Like they're not it's not just about reference. Like they have an idea of their own beyond, wasn't the past a good time? And Mina the Hollower seems to be going down that path as well, where it's like, yeah, this is an homage to old Game Boy games.
Yeah.
But
homages don't have to be all driven by nostalgia. It can be actively trying to resuscitate value.
Yeah. It's not just about nostalgia, although it is.
It partly is, sure.
It partly is, but like it's also like, hey, I've got they've got their own ideas, their own things they want to do and these old school styles are more a medium for them to express that rather than just a style that they recreate because nostalgia. And Yacht Club game, fucking great. Shovel Knight games, really fucking good. Mina the Hollower, looking really good. It's already succeeded. So yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk about was what is a little more sad. The state of Tennessee has chosen to ban the comic Mouse from schools. And for those who don't know, Mouse is a comic about the Holocaust. Like it is a very dark story about the dark reality of the Holocaust, and you know it.
Didn't they announce the ban on Holocaust Remembrance Day or something? It was
God.
Like an unbelievable act of book burning style fervor.
Yeah, like it is dark because Tennessee banning this book is messed up because like
they're banning it from schools, right? Like just to be clear, that's the context.
Yeah, they're banning it from schools, and and that's not good because people need to learn about the Holocaust, the dark realities of it, so that hopefully we don't recreate that. But like, you know, so many states have decided, critical race theory, quote unquote, is a bad thing. Let's get rid of anything.
But hey, the official reason that Mouse was banned from public schools was because of its unnecessary portrayal of nudity. So, you know, gotta give him that.
Yeah. So like,
I'm being sarcastic.
I know.
Okay, I did not want there to be any missed subtext with that statement.
Yeah, no, fair. Subtext,
who am I, Whoopi Goldberg?
Subtext is dead. Day and age.
It's just some white people being like fighting other white people. That's all the Holocaust was.
No, it's about man's inhumanity.
She's about to be in Star Trek again, and I was so pumped, and now I'm like, oh, what's this going to turn into? Damn.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the book Mouse is about about the author of the book, Art Spiegelman, talking to his dad about his personal experience about his personal experiences going through the Holocaust and surviving through it, and like, you know, as his dad recounts his experience, there is one it analyzes his own relationship to his dad in the present day, or the present day as it was when the book was made, and like how his dad's experiences has colored that, as well as just the horrifying reality of one of the darkest things mankind has ever done, and also like it is unambiguously a very Jewish story, this is, I mean, what else is there to say? This is just,
and Tennessee is not the only state in the United States trying to push bans on things that discuss, you know, the problematic things that humanity has done regarding race in the past.
Yeah, I mean, any First Nation person can tell you about how America is trying to erase the horrifying things done to the Native Americans, the First Nation people. Yeah, you know,
it's all disguised under this, like, well, we don't want to just teach kids to feel bad for being white. It's just like, dog, that's not. That's not what
I was
it's
taught
about,
all this
really.
shit. I don't feel bad for being white. I'll tell you that right now. I feel bad for being me. I have my own problems. Thank you very much. There are plenty of ways to fuck me up, and you did it without that one.
And like,
but hey, on the bright side of this story, didn't the book like fucking skyrocket to the Amazon
top of the
bestseller
list?
Yeah, sure. But look, we're talking about kids here. Kids don't have a lot of like freedom.
Kids don't have a lot of Amazon gift cards.
Kids don't have a lot of freedom to seek this out. They either have like parents looking over their shoulders, and thus they or just like might not be aware of the book, and you know, lack of accessibility, or they don't have the money to buy a comic because, you know, not all kids live in good financial conditions. The fact that this book is not accessible is bad. Not all kids have a car ride to the library, for example. So, like, you know, it means more people in the dark about history, and thus more of history repeating itself.
Yep. And not in the good way that we've been saying with this remake and demake culture. That's the good way of history repeating itself.
Please don't remake
guys,
or
trust me.
demake the
Trust me, this one's bad. We don't need a remake. It's rough.
Yeah, I guess that is the sort of soft theme of this episode: history repeating.
Yeah, for better, for worse, or for mouse. I think that for the sake of time, I'm gonna push us into the rating section.
That's fair. Those were the big ones I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I guess there's also the Scott Pilgrim anime series that's in development at Netflix.
Oh, that's cool.
That sounds pretty rad, but we don't know much about it, so. Yeah,
I think
really
what is it? The original author and I think Edgar Wright are both producing. Is the author writing it, or is he producing?
Awesome. The original author Brian Lee O'Malley is a part of it, producing it.
Are they fucking gonna have?
Yeah, well, I mean, the original creators of
Michael Cera.
I don't think so. I don't think they've announced any casting, but I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. So would I, but that would be funny.
That would be
I don't know. It's not always a good thing because the original producers are involved in How I Met Your Father, and much like the first season of How I Met Your Mother, mixed bag so far. We'll see if it becomes endearing. I don't know. Not always necessarily the best sign.
Yeah, I mean,
but let's move into the ratings.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I dragged it on longer than I should have. Here we are in our editor's room, and we are going to assess the stories that we have brought.
Sir.
We are in Jeff's editing bathtub, all spreading diseases amongst each other in these historically turbulent times, and we're doing this. We're sacrificing our well-being, personal space,
in
and
these
clean
historically
bathtubs for
repetitive times, you could say.
Historically repetitive times. We're going to try to figure out what we think is the most interesting, impactful story of all the geek news from January 2021. 2022, that's the second time that I've said the wrong year. in like the last 2 episodes, so might be. But here we go. Let's do it. We're each going to nominate a story, and then we're going to try to come to a consensus. If you're going to walk away from this episode talking one story about your friends to make yourself seem smarter or geekier, I don't know, then what is that going to be? And I'm going to nominate, it's the biggest in every possible fucking regard, Microsoft buy Activision Blizzard King. Who else remembered that Activision didn't just own Blizzard, but also King? Like, what the fuck? I forgot that. But no, it's huge in size. It's an unprecedented cash buy. It reshapes so much of the gaming industry. Even if you just look at this from like the internal politics of Microsoft and Activision, it's interesting, and then its implications beyond that are like potentially amazing, likely awful. We just don't know what it's going to be yet. We don't even know if the deal's going to be approved, but it is audacious and earth-shaping in a very strange way. And given how much we've been talking about Activision over the last 6 months, it is such a strange development that I did not expect. It makes sense in hindsight, but I didn't think that the new Activision story this month was going to be they sold in the whole thing. That's my nomination.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go that way too. I'm tempted to say the Neil Young thing, but I feel like that only barely qualifies as any sort of geek
news. It could get a lot bigger. I want to keep my finger on that one too. That could blow up.
Yeah, but keyword is could. So I think I'm probably with you in Microsoft buying Activision, or I guess if we wanted to fucking lump them all together, we could just say like all the huge fucking,
This was a month of acquisitions.
Yeah.
So the one I'm most like, or that's like my favorite is, well, the Bloodborne remake, because that's just pretty.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
The most I'm concerned about.
Cool.
Yeah, the one I'm most concerned about is Mouse getting banned. But like in overall impact, I give it to Microsoft buying Activision.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you just said. I think the demake tickles me in a fun way that those projects always do. Mouse is just a horrifying, concerning development amid many in the global geopolitical climate. And Activision buying Microsoft is just, it's so big. Like,
you
what
mean
the
Microsoft
fuck?
buying Activision?
Yep. What did I say? Acquisition?
You said Activision buying Microsoft.
Which would be
Is that
more
that would be
up.
That would be much more surprising.
That would be worse.
Like, how did you pull that one off?
Wait a minute! You're telling me that World of Warcraft is gonna make Microsoft Office 365? Oh no!
Oh god, the
Man,
Microsoft.
I long for a day where not only will Activision not be a contender for our news for the month, but won't even make it to the news in a given month for this podcast.
It's been fucking nutty, dude. They've been doing so much big shit. I know I talked a lot about Halo recently. Oh, we also got a new trailer for the Halo show. There's like a lot of Halo specific stuff that's been going on, but it's just like, this is like, it's not, if you just think about it, this is not just like Xbox had $68 billion sitting around. This is Microsoft. Xbox is not where they make most of their money. And they're spending half their war chest on video games. Which is just a sign of where things are going for Microsoft. It's nuts.
Hold on a sec. I kind of imagine with like how big Microsoft is, what they bought Activision Blizzard with is kind of a drop in the bucket. It is
half of their on-hand cash, granted
they spent half their on-hand cash. On Activision
which granted
Blizzard.
is. Yeah, it's like, granted, that is not the best metric of like relative worth, because the company itself is worth what? It's over $1 trillion right now. So 60 billion compared to that, you're right, is a drop in the bucket if we're talking like net assets and market valuation. But in terms of raw liquid capital, half of it just went to them.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That is crazy, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story to keep an eye on of all the many. Like I said, fucking crazy month. What a whiz bang of a month for so many reasons. And I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about it. I like that we had like a pretty in-depth chat about almost everything on this list too. So hopefully you walk away knowing a little bit more, being a little bit smarter, a little geekier. And that's going to do it for us. That about wraps it up. We're going to be back in a couple weeks with a regular-ass book club episode where we break down a single topic in detail. And then again at the beginning of March to recap what happened in February. I imagine we will have some follow-ups on what's been going on this month. I've been Colin. I've been hosting. Like I said, I've been sick for the last week. It's not hitting me that hard, but I'm a sleepy boy. So I'm about to go to sleep. Who are you guys? How you doing?
I've been Jeff. If you want to find me anywhere, you can find me in my bathtub or on my YouTube channel where I do toy reviews. That's Alchemist Prime Reviews. I would like to get out of this bathtub pretty soon because it is hard and my butt hurts.
Let's save Jeff's butt and get him out of the tub.
Save my butt. Make it a hashtag. Save Jeff's butt.
Hi,
Jeff, there were so many episode titles before this. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Damn it.
I still think the stuff that came before are still better titles than Save My Butt.
But hashtag Save Jeff's butt?
I stand by what I say, but yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Untitled Chapter or Chowder, whichever you prefer. You can find me on Twitter at Untitled Chapter. You can also find me on the sister podcast, Dice Populi, where I'm running the current story arc, and it's pretty fucking wild. I think I'm pretty proud of it.
We just dropped a banger of an episode today, which was
bang.
a real pain in the ass to put together. Not really Chowder's fault on that front. But good time to listen to.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, no.
I won't say a thing.
Won't say anything, but I'm happy with it. I'm happy with how the players are doing in it. So, yeah, no, pretty rad stuff.
I'm happy that I'm not editing that episode anymore.
I'm gonna go back to playing Pokemon before World War III starts, because as we've learned, history repeats itself in many ways, both good and bad. So, ciao.
Durr.
Bye. I didn't even say Durr. What the hell's wrong with me? Oh, it's COVID. That's what's wrong with me.
I said it.
Yeah, you did, but I wasn't a card game. This episode of the Comment Briefing Program was hosted by me, Colin. I was joined by Jeff and Chowder, as is the usual. Day late and a dollar short seems to be sort of my deal lately. If only I wasn't always sick. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a regular book club episode. In the meantime, you can go check out commongeekingprogram.com. If you're like in a podcast rut and you don't know what to listen to, we got 3 shows right there. I've also done some work for The Greatest Discovery and The Intelligence Podcast. So a couple other things you could get in your ears if you're super interested. But I guess I just want to say thank you for listening to this, and we'll see you in the next episode. Maybe hear you, you'll hear us. That one.
Yeah, but
Well, Chatter, someone
Trying to cut
microwaving
in and out for
something.
you.
Yeah, he is.
I might have just talked straight over him because I thought he stopped talking.
Microwave?
No, he did me too. Chatter. Hey, Chatter, is someone microwaving something over there?
Yeah, I guess some.
That's been a pretty consistent problem in many recordings.
Chowder, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so what I was saying.
I can't tell when he's just like stopped talking because he's confused about what we're laughing about, or if he's just like cutting in and out.
I am messaging him to get his attention. I'm trying so hard, Jeff. I promise. Oh boy, fun.
Chowder, can you hear him?
Chowder. He could at least type back, which is what's interesting because he's not.
Well, I'm gonna use this
He
opportunity
must know
to
by
adjust myself
now.
in this bathtub because my tailbone is hurting.
Forgot you were in a fucking bathtub.
Oh, there he goes.
Well, okay. Well, he's dropped from that. So, he's back. Let's see if this resolves it.
Okay,
Probably not. That was very quick. So he might have to restart the Discord app, I'm guessing.
Chowder.
Chowder.
Not a great sign. See, it's always
Not
hard
a
to see
great
when Chowder is
sign.
talking because his Discord symbol is green.
Yeah,
So when the little
yeah.
green circle pops up, it's hard to see.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone in that one. That is a frustration.
I'll get an actual profile pic some.
Hey,
you know,
he's back.
I mean, maybe not for long. Somebody might microwave something else. So, but
Yeah, that was that like a full lean cuisine? That was the biggest interruption yet.
I don't.
Yeah, have fucking fun editing that together to be coherent.
Oh, I don't need to. That's post credits. Done.